Aloha and welcome back to the Awakening to the Magic of the Menstrual Cycle. Today I have the beautiful Miss Raven Rose with me. Thank you so much for being here, Raven. I'm so excited to have you.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. I'm really excited about this.
Yay! Okay, so I'm just going to read a little bit about Raven to get you guys familiar with her if you aren't already. Miss Raven Rose is the herbalist and medicine woman behind Moon Medicine, a woman menstrual health herbal practice. Her formal training includes studies in women's herbalism and ethnobotany, community herbalism, wild medicine, spiritual healing, and abdominal massage with Mayan elders, as well as combo practitioner training in the Peruvian Amazon. Overcoming endometriosis opened her path to plant medicine, womb massage, spiritual and ancestral lineage healing. She was able to progress in her womb healing through restoring the traditional practices of her ancestral lineage. In the process, she's seen her life transform and now helps others connect with their bodies, plants, and ancestors to restore their self-healing abilities. What a bio!
Thank you.
That sounds like some really good knowledge that you have absorbed and experiences that you've had.
Yes, absolutely. It's been such a journey, such a journey to get here.
Yeah, it sounds like it. I am personally interested in quite a few of these things, especially like the wild medicine and your combo practitioner training. Did you go to the Amazon for that?
I did. I was in the Amazon for about a month. I spent 21 days in the jungle, and I had about 9 ceremonies within that 21 days. And I also had 9 days of dieta and just working with combo every other day, doing ceremonies, and working in silence for that time also. It was really, really powerful. Absolutely amazing experience in spite of the mosquitoes and tarantulas.
I bet.
Yeah.
So you said silence. Did you talk at all during that time?
I did. Just for the 9 days, there was, we had 9 days of silence while we were doing combo self-application. So after we got to the point where we could do combo for ourselves, we had 9 days of dieta with just 2 meals a day, no salt, no spices, no oils, really simple foods, and no talking to each other. We could sing and we could write in the journal and things like that. And it really, really powerful. I got a lot of downloads during that experience.
I can only imagine. I have personally done a Vipassana meditation, which is a 10-day silent meditation retreat, but that was not coupled with any types of earth medicines. That does sound really powerful. I would love for you to just briefly describe what combo is for people who don't know what that is.
Yeah, so kombu is it's a secretion from the green monkey tree frog, and it's a poisonous secretion. And traditionally, it's been used by just doing superficial burns on the skin, and the poison goes into the blood. And it's used to help clear toxicity from the physical body, but also from the emotional body, the energetic body. And I found it really helpful for helping to facilitate ancestral lineage healing by helping to kind of bring some things to the surface for us to see them and be able to release them. I absolutely love it. It's definitely an intense process. There is purging involved, and I think that's something that maybe a lot of people don't really have very much familiarity with because of our modern way of medicine, but in the past, people used purgatives to help clear the body, whether it was herbs or whether it was combo or something like that. They are really powerful ways of clearing toxicity, and I just absolutely love it because it works on so many different levels.
Beautiful. And it's a relatively short session and experience, right?
It is. The intense part of the ceremony where you're actually purging is only about 15 minutes long. The full ceremony is about an hour and a half long, depending on the practitioner that you're with. but it's pretty quick experience. You have your ceremony, and then you have time to rest, and you can go about your day.
Beautiful. And it's not a psychedelic.
No, not at all. It is mainly for the physical body. So there's no visionary aspect to it. And I think that it's a great way to prepare for some kind of visionary experience. But it's also just a really great way to reconnect with the body and kind of clear the things that we've been carrying that we don't realize that we've been carrying. And it's just a really powerful, really powerful cleanser for the body.
Beautiful. I'm sure it's probably a little challenging to describe the experience for someone who's not experienced it.
It is. It's how do you describe having a low dose of poison go into your body? It is intense. You feel your heart beating pretty strongly. You can feel it beating in your head. That was my experience. And then this kind of feeling washes over you where the combo is going deep into your body. And I could feel it like passing through all the cells in my body and almost like turning them over, giving them a wash and saying, what needs to go? And it's uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable when, all of these things that we've been carrying for years and years and years, and maybe even generations, are now coming to the surface to be purged. And one ceremony isn't going to clear everything, of course, but it's a way to start having things move. And then you want to follow it up with ancestor work and doing womb, especially if you're focused on any kind of womb healing for your combo ceremony. Herbs and diet and lifestyle, all of it matters. And combo can actually help you get to a point where it's easier for you to follow a healthy lifestyle, because you're able to kind of clear some of the blockages that we have to kind of just like sticking to a plan. Because when your body is cleared of physical things, like for example, if you have an unhealthy balance of gut bacteria and that's cleared, well, maybe you're not going to be craving the same foods anymore, and maybe your body will want different things. So it's really helpful to kind of get on track.
That sounds very powerful and very relevant to modern day society right now, because I don't think at least 90% of the population have really a healthy balance of gut flora and bacteria. Everybody's internal ecosystems are pretty out of whack right now. The majority of, especially people in this country anyway. So that's really awesome that is something that can help with that. 'Cause aside from changing the way that you live and eat and take care of yourself, I don't know many medicines in that way that can actually go into your body and help balance that out, in particular in like a session.
Yeah, it's I don't know many either. I think it's one of those things where you need that little bit of a push, and that's where it's a tough ceremony. It's not easy to purge, and maybe you're throwing up, maybe you're going to the toilet, maybe you're crying. It's not easy to go through those things, but sometimes that's what we need to kind of clear away. And also going through that discomfort makes you stronger, and you're like, oh, I got through that, I'm okay, I can do this, and you kind of feel prepared to do a lot of things.
Definitely. That is the interesting part about like really truly moving through the work of a healing and personal transformation journey. Is it's messy, challenging, and uncomfortable and painful sometimes, and sometimes you don't even know how to do it, but you just have to like move through it. And always when you come out on the other side, you feel so much more empowered.
Yes.
And it's worth it. But the passage through is oftentimes really traumatic all on its own, like undoing some of the damage that has been done to us, whether that's on a physical, mental, or emotional level, it's usually not easy or comfortable.
Absolutely. And, when it's easy to be comfortable in the discomfort when we've been dealing with it for so long.
Because you're
And it's like, well, a little bit of discomfort, this hour-long ceremony, to start moving towards feeling better all the time. It's worth it.
Definitely. Yeah, and I think it's really appealing for people who don't necessarily feel called to psychedelics and being a little bit less in control of their reality, because this is a way to have a powerful purging and transformational experience and not float out into space.
Yeah, absolutely. If anything, combo is extremely grounding. It really kind of helps you connect deeply with your body, going through that process, getting through that tough part. You're focused on your breath, and you're focused on allowing this process to happen, allowing these things to leave your body. And it's extremely grounding. So, yeah.
Beautiful. I am looking forward to trying that when it's my time. So if you wouldn't mind going into like a little bit more detail about how an actual session works. Like, I know that it's like tiny little burns on the skin. Is that right? You get like tiny little burns on your skin and they're on like specific parts of your body.
Yeah, absolutely. So usually it's on the upper arm, and so it's just superficial burns. They're pretty small. I can probably show you some here. Yeah. So that's what they look like, and they're done with just a little organic incense that doesn't have a wood in it, doesn't have a wood stick in it. And so in the ceremony, we sit down, kind of open things up, invite in any helpful guides to help you through the process. And as I'm preparing the medicine, I ask that you drink 2 liters of water, and that 2 liters of water makes your belly really, really full. And by the time you're done drinking that water, you're ready to throw up at that point, which is good, because once the poison goes on, you want to have something that's going to help carry this bile that will usually come up out. So having that full belly really helps with the purging process. And as you're drinking the water, you put your intention in. I think it's really important to work with an intention for this part. Work with water in that way, because that water carries energy. So if you put an intention to learn about and to help clear wound pain, now you've got that vibration in the water, and you drink it. And now when the combo goes on to those superficial burns, then, and your body is purging, your body is it helps to facilitate pulling out those things that are connected with your intention. And I find that that intention actually helps to focus where the combo goes in the body, because for some people, it's going to be directed to like the upper, like the chest and the lungs, and they purge a lot of phlegm. For other people, it could be directed towards the digestive area and the womb space. And maybe they're on the toilet for most of the ceremony. But depending on where it is that you're working on, or what it is that you're working on with that intention, that's kind of where the combo is going to go to help you start clearing. But then also there are other things that come in, and so you drink that 2 liters of water, the poison goes on. Within about a minute or two, you can feel your body heating up, and about a minute or two later, you're going to start purging. And depending on what it is that you're working on, or whatever, what needs to be cleared in order for you to kind of move forward on your path, that's where combo is going to go. And sometimes people feel it really strongly, like tingling in their hands, or they feel it in the throat area. And the throat is a big one for a lot of people who are working on the womb space, because those two are really, really connected. Being able to use our voice and ourselves in many different situations. A lot of times the throat area needs a little bit of a boost. So you could feel some tingling and maybe even a little bit of swelling in the throat, and sometimes it can be alarming, but when you're working with a practitioner who has done training, experience, and isn't going to try and give you too much poison, then you're in good hands. Starting off with a low dose, like 3 dots, is usually a good place for people to start. And so you go through that purging process, and then afterwards, things kind of calm down. And you just have this clear-headedness. You have a chance to rest. Usually I make people have tea to help settle the stomach again. And we have a chance to chat. And I get a lot of just intuitive guidance from guides that are present, from the person that I'm sitting with on what they could be working through. And so we have a chance to talk about that. A lot of different things will come up. Ancestors will come through and kind of show me things. I'll see things from someone's childhood, things that they could be carrying from their maternal or paternal lineages. And so we have a chance to talk about that. And then we follow things up with herbs. So herbal teas, flower essences, and things like that help to kind of work through those things that came up in the ceremony. And that way you're not just relying on combo alone. Combo is wonderful and powerful, but we also have to do the work to maintain the transformation that we experience in those ceremonies.
Beautiful. And on that note, I'm guessing that it is very important for a person to really feel like they can trust the practitioner that they're working with, and confident in that practitioner's ability to really hold them and do a good job in the ceremony, basically, because I'm sure there's like a million combo practitioners around the world. And I think that's something that's important for people to really take into consideration, is feeling out the practitioners and really making sure that you resonate with the one that you decide to work with, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's really, really important. And I did my training with Combo Naturista, and they have a whole list of practitioners, including myself, on there. I absolutely trust my teachers and everyone that they've trained because they were amazing. They have so much compassion towards the frogs. I really resonate with the way they collect the medicine from the frogs, and the way they do it with the least amount of harm possible done to the frog, and so that they're safe. They want the medicine to be energetically helpful and positive from the beginning. So that's really important to me. And yeah, just being comfortable with your practitioner. Find out things like how long they've been practicing, what drew them to working with the medicine, and maybe even find out like what's the dose that they start people off with. And you know, there's intuition involved, but there's also important safety measures. So, for example, I'm not going to start someone off who I just met for the first time and I don't know how their body's going to react. I'm not going to start them off with 7 dots. We may work our way up, but it's always important to work with a practitioner who puts safety first. And see if they offer anything else, or if they know of anyone that's in their network that can help support you in other ways. Because after the combo experience, you need support and integration, which is why I like to work with herbs. But there are a lot of other ways that you can integrate your experience. So if someone has other modalities of healing that they work with, I think that's really great because I think it gives them just a broader range of tools to work with when something comes up for someone, because everyone is different, everyone reacts differently, and everyone has many different kinds of support afterwards.
That's a really good piece to mention, and I'm grateful that that's in your awareness, having support afterwards, because I feel like people who are drawn to working with different earth medicines, especially like psychedelics, oftentimes that's something that they don't have afterwards, is the support. And I feel like that's super important to have that, to move through the integration process properly. I know that I have had plenty of psychedelic experiences where I didn't have the proper support, and I feel like it was really traumatic for me at times for not doing it in the proper way or having a proper guide or proper support afterwards. And I personally feel like those types of medicines are like, they can be so powerfully healing, especially for the spirit of the human being right now who has been so cut off from its true nature for so long. And I think that sometimes different alternative psychological medicines can get a bad rap because they're not done properly. So I'm just really grateful to hear that piece from you. Even though combo isn't a psychedelic, it's still really important to have support through the integration process.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a transformative experience, like all of those are. You know, whether it's psychedelic or not, it's a really big transformative experience. And I think because we don't really have support in those transformative experiences, whether it's, you know, some kind of traumatic experience, you know, we're now coming into the understanding of being able to support people through those things. So this is the same. You know, it's a big transformation, and it pushes us to explore ourselves in a different way. So that integration is really important.
Definitely. And I was just thinking about like one of the reasons it's important, other than just like on an individual internal level, like everybody has different backgrounds and different lives, and like specifically for people who don't have like a conscious community around them to really receive them and understand why they would even want to do something like that, or help support them through their, you know, expansion of their own consciousness. I feel like it's extra important to make sure that you have support from a competent practitioner or someone who works with people if you don't have that in your community.
Absolutely. Yeah, that community support is so vital. Yeah, and I think it's a big part of what we need as a whole. Restoring community and having community support.
Definitely. I completely agree 100%. Just like, and just about every one of these interviews I do for the summit, I get like these visions of like future Earth and like new Earth, as we're calling it, of like where there is community and there's so much more just like elements of the way that we live that are really in alignment with what's natural for us and the natural world around us. And community is a huge piece of that. And I think that's one of the things that our country, specifically America, has really been suffering without, because there's been this heavy emphasis on independence and everybody doing everything alone on their own. And I just don't think that that's the way that a human being actually thrives.
I completely agree. Yes.
So I'm really looking forward to all the shifting it's already well underway. Thank you so much for sharing that piece about combo with me. I'm very interested in that. I actually follow this one woman who's worked with it quite a bit, and she shared one of her experiences where like she even took pictures of herself because she had such an intense experience with combo, and like her whole face swelled up because whatever she was going through and purging, but she was like a freaking diamond afterwards. Like,
yeah, that's part of it. Face swelling, that can be a big part of it too. So
it's interesting. And to think like everyone is on a different level, so like depending on the level of toxicity and imbalance in your own body depends on like the experience you have. I'm just like really curious about like the emotional psychological connection with like the physical when it comes to working with that type of medicine, because I'm pretty sure you could have like a physical experience that is really like the root of it is emotional baggage or wounding.
absolutely.
You know?
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think that's where those ceremonies happen, where the person ends up crying all the whole time, or it starts off with crying. And um, there are certain things that people will notice about the purge, like if there's a lot of phlegm. To me, that's connected with the lungs and grief and sadness that we could be carrying. Because some
Mm.
people, they purge and there's no phlegm at all, and then other people, that it's just all phlegm. And other people, it's all gas. They're belching the whole time. And
Wow.
yeah, so there's all these different ways that these emotions are held in the body, and the way that we release them is can be different from person to person. And I see this purging as, yes, part of it is physical toxicity, things that we've consumed over our years of being on Earth. I know for me personally, I mean, when I was a teenager, I was eating like cheese doodles and McDonald's. I mean, our stuff
Totally.
in the home was like home cooked meals, but as soon as I could like had my car and I could go and get my own food, I was eating fast food because I could never eat it as a kid. So
Yeah.
there's all these things, and then I was on birth control for 7 years,
Mm.
and that has a big impact. And the
Mm.
whole reason I went on to birth control is because I didn't know enough about my body. And to
Mm.
me, that is a wound. So when you're going in and working with combo and pulling these things out that are connected to physical ailments, it's also very much connected to emotional wounds as well. And those are going to come out. And a lot of times it does come out in emotions. And people, for example, I did a ceremony for someone who was dealing with candida in the esophagus and went
Mm.
through a really big emotional release after those ceremonies. So this person had candida in the esophagus and had the hardest time expressing emotions his whole life.
Mm.
And once we got to the ceremony afterwards, the candida was cleared, but also there was this huge emotional block cleared, and he tapped into his emotions in a way he's never done before, and it was completely transformative. And so he spent a year learning how to feel his emotions and learning how to express his emotions. So yeah, there's that physical piece, but usually that physical piece is connected to something emotional as well.
Definitely. Oh, that sounds like such a powerful medicine just for men in particular, because they have been so very cut off from what it really means to be in alignment with your own divine masculine energy and have and experience emotions, let alone talk about it. Like that's such a big wound in the masculine right now. So what a powerful medicine for that individual to experience.
Yeah, it was so powerful.
Sounds like it. And okay, I just wanted to add this piece also, just from my own experience. What I have, the conclusion that I've come to is like when we were talking about like psychedelic medicines, for instance, not being done in the proper way. I have over time realized that I think the main, most important piece when it comes to working with powerful medicines, especially that um, alter your state of consciousness so strongly, to one, like not only have a proper guide, but to have like the ceremony, the
Absolutely.
act ceremony and the ritual around it and the intention and like the whole like space that you're in and the way that you go into it, and to have it actually be like kind of like a structured journey to hold you in while you're going through it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's so important. Having that ceremony, having that space held in that way is so, so important. And even if your intention is just to connect with joy, that's beautiful. That's a wonderful intention to go into a ceremony with. And it's also important to recognize that you may be faced with things in that ceremony that are blocks to your joy, and that can
Mm.
be really tough. So it doesn't matter the the intention so much as it does the space that you're held in, because you can go
Yeah.
in for specifically for healing, or you can go in for I just want to feel more connected to joy. Either
Mm,
way, it's important to have that container held for you.
definitely. I think, like you said, it's like more important than the actual medicine itself is how you do it and the environment you're in and the energies that you're around. Those are like the most important part of it.
Those are huge. Yes. Make sure you're with the right people and you feel comfortable to go through all of the things that could come up in that ceremony.
Definitely. The intention's where it's at. Okay, so I know that you mentioned a little bit about your experience with combo also helping to kind of like strengthen and develop your own relating with your ancestors. Can you tell me a little bit about how that has gone for you? Did that journey of connecting with your ancestors begin before you went and journeyed with combo, or was that kind of like the start of it?
So I started connecting with my ancestors first. I was going through my endometriosis healing process, and endometriosis, for anyone who's not familiar, is a condition where the uterine lining that grows normally inside of the uterus can grow in other parts of the body. And so when the cycle comes, all of those endometrial adhesions, they kind of swell up and can cause a lot of physical pain.
Mm,
And I was in so much physical pain with my cycles, and I did a lot of healing with diet and lifestyle changes, and even started to introduce some herbs. And I needed more help. I got my pain way down, but there was more to heal, and I didn't know where to turn because at the time, like the doctor that I was seeing, I had kind of exhausted all the options there. As far as I knew, with diet and lifestyle, I had kind of exhausted most of those options, and I just needed more clarity.
mm,
And so I asked my ancestors for help. I didn't know what else to do. I was in so much pain, and I asked for some kind of clarity and guidance on what to do. And I started getting just a lot of signs of my paternal grandmother being with me and guiding me
mm,
through dreams, and wanted to work with I wanted to work with this specific medicine, and I I had set the intention of working with ayahuasca years ago. My friend called me after having a dream where I was walking in the jungle holding a drum with ayahuasca on the top, and I was like, okay, it's time. Um, I felt like I had good ancestral support and I was ready. And she told me that there would be a medicine man serving combo, and I looked it up and I was like, I'm not really interested. And I went and did my ceremony, and afterwards the medicine man came and spoke with us about combo, and I was listening to him speak, and I got this feeling in my body when my ancestors are like, do this, come on, they're kind of pushing me. My whole body lights up, and I'm like, okay, I know this is the right thing for me. And I was like, I have to do this. I don't know when I'll have the opportunity to do it again.
mm.
And so I did my first combo ceremony, and it was so powerful. I remember um, I remember the feeling of the poison going into my body, and my whole body just kind of like turning over on the inside, and just kind of releasing a lot of things um, that had been holding me back. And
Mm,
from there, after that first ceremony, I found my first herbal program, my Women's Herbalism and Ethnobotany program. I was like, okay, thank you, more guidance. And I continued to work with my ancestors, and I think my ancestral connections were able to grow from that ceremony because I had that trust in having this experience and knowing that there was more of a connection between my ancestry and what was happening in the womb space.
mm,
And I started asking my ancestors for even more guidance through dreams. And they would come through and kind of talk to me about different herbs or show me different herbs to work with. And then
mm,
as I started to work with combo even more, I did my first self application. I was able to see how the pain that I felt in my womb space was actually connected to ancestral trauma. And I could see ancestors on both sides of my lineage, or both of my primary maternal, or my maternal and my paternal lineages. I could see how they were suffering, and I could see the sexual trauma that they experienced in their lives. And it wasn't just the women, and I had focused so much on healing sexual trauma from colonialism that had to do with the women, but I didn't realize that it was also the men. And so that was a really big opening for me, and that came from my first self-application of combo. So my first big combo ceremony in the jungle, that was really powerful. And from there, I spent about a year doing ancestor work specifically to heal and connect with my paternal ancestors and help them with releasing some pain. I remember connecting with an ancestor who I didn't realize it at the time, but this is something this is where combo is so helpful, because being able to have clarity in the dream space is so important to the healing process when we don't have the tools in front of us, or we're not presented with all of the tools for that healing process. Sometimes it takes having that ancestral connection to have insight into the tools that we could be using to help us through our healing process. So ancestors have showed me things around sound healing. They have showed me things around working with different herbs, and having that connection is so powerful. So that's one aspect of it. But then there's also the aspect of doing the actual healing. And so I saw this ancestor who was thrown over a boat with shackles on his wrists and ankles and around his throat, and left and died in the ocean. And his family didn't have a chance to grieve for him. So being able to recognize that and go to the ocean and do a ceremony with my family to honor that was a really big part of the healing process. And these are the kinds of things that come from working with plant medicines, working with dreams, and just having a stronger connection with ancestral guides.
That's so beautiful. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
I can feel your ancestors so very strongly supporting you, and their gratitude and appreciation for you for being who you are right now and on the path that you're on right now, and open to their connection. Sounds so powerful.
Yeah, it's really, I mean, I absolutely love helping people to connect with their ancestors. I think it's a really big part of any womb healing process, because our first home on earth is in the womb. And so we have to look at our blood and where we come from, because the blood that nourishes us comes from our mother, who came from her mother and grandmother and great grandmother. So it's in our blood already. And I think maybe sometimes people are kind of apprehensive, or I don't know how to start connecting. The first thing to do is connect with your own body, connect with your womb space. Just massage your belly, massage your womb space. And that's a wonderful way to just start opening that connection, because it's already within you. So just tapping into it is the first step.
Definitely. And I think that you're very right with that oftentimes it begins with the healing journey with your own body and yourself first. I think about this, and I feel like I talk about it pretty regularly, about just how special it is to be alive right now in our generation on the planet, and to think about the history of humanity and the insane experiences and journeys and everything that they had to endure to get us to where we're at right now. Like the not having the opportunity to grieve, the loss of a loved one. I can't imagine how many mothers lost babies, and like it's been a rough journey to get humanity to where we're at right now. So like to be in the position that we're in, to be supported enough to have access to what we have access to have the freedoms that we have access to not have to like worry about the basic survival, and to really be able to actually focus on not only healing ourselves, but like to take it a step further and send some of that healing to the line of ancestors, because there's not ever really been an opportunity to do that before. So it's like so extra important and special to be where we're at on the line of ancestors, and why it is so extra important for us to really take responsibility for the privileges that we have right now, and to really do the work of healing ourselves and allowing that to trickle down our lineage.
Absolutely. It's so important, and like you said, it's been there are so many generations that have set aside their healing to just survive and to make a better life for us. And they push aside their own creative desires, their own personalities, their own expressions, their own sexual expressions, all of those for so many generations. So now we have the opportunity to help in kind of healing some of those pains, and it also helps to it also helps us to experience more of life and deepen with ourselves. And a lot of times those things that were not healed in the past will show up as patterns in our lives. So the ways that we move through the world are often modeled after the way our ancestors had to live. And so by observing, by seeing, oh wow, that ancestor had a really hard time with this, experience, and because of it, they weren't able to express their emotions. And how do I express my emotions? Am I still carrying some of that? And how can we work together and heal and both kind of just bring up the lineage? And that way, moving forward in future generations, those future generations are, not having to carry all of that weight as well.
Definitely. Well, and I mean, that's why the work is so, like, the work that we do on ourselves individually is so important, because it's not ever just for us. It's always for everyone who came before us and the collective as a whole, which is why it is the single most important and powerful thing that anyone can do, is move through their own transformational process and pour all of the love they have into themselves.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's so amazing to see how when someone does ancestor work, how it impacts the whole family, and how things that were happening, family dynamics that were happening before that were unhealthy. Like I had one person that I was working with who, like the men in the family wouldn't even talk to the women. It was like basically like the women were servants in the family. They were there to make babies and prepare food. And after doing some ancestor work for a few months, she went to a family reunion, and the dynamic had shifted. She called her ancestors in for this family reunion, and the men were connecting with women. To me, that's a huge step. That is huge, because imagine the ripple effect that has on how those people are now interacting with other people in their community. So it's
Definitely. I keep having this thought that wants to come out, and it keeps like fluttering around. Let's see if I can grab it. Okay, yes. And so that also makes me think about how sometimes it can like take a little bit of the pressure off of you when you think about how we inherit certain wounds and patterns, because I feel like sometimes we can tend to almost over dramatize our healing process and think that like we're so messed up and there's so much stuff that's like ours that like we caused, and to like think that it's not just you, like you're just in the position that the healing of your lineage can actually happen.
Exactly.
You know?
Absolutely.
So it's
Absolutely.
not all you.
Absolutely. And I think having that awareness is so helpful for the healing process, especially when you're dealing with pain, whether it's emotional, mental, or physical. Just having the awareness that, okay, it's not just me. You know, I know once you can see and kind of understand where some of these things are, like the strings that they're connected to, and you start to work on mending those wounds, it's like, oh, okay, I have a lot of support too. You know, I have ancestral support in this, and I have the support of plant medicines and herbs and things like that. And also just being able to recognize, like you said, like it's not just you. And um, we a lot of times carry the wounds that we're able, we carry the wounds that we're able to heal. I think that's important to recognize as well. Like sometimes people think, well, why did I get all of this stuff? Why do I have to go through all of this? And it wouldn't have happened if you weren't able to work through it. And there's a lot of support out there. And ancestors are supportive, herbalists, practitioner, all kinds of healing practitioners can be a really great support. And finding a good community is also really helpful. Find other people who are working on your healing in some kind of way. Go to sound healing, go to different workshops and classes, and find people who are also moving into that healing process, because it's also about creating that community again and knowing that, okay, I'm not going to do this on my own. Maybe this is like my personal pain to heal, but it's also like me working with ancestors and working with other people in my community to help restore my health and my balance. And I think that's why for me it's so important to help people to make those connections so that you feel empowered in that healing process. um, because it's, we can do so much for ourselves. And I think also recognizing that kind of feeling of like overwhelm could be connected to ancestral trauma. And so asking questions like, where does this feeling come from? All of those feelings that come up, ask where they come from, because they could be connected to something that you could work on healing. And it's just, and you may think, well, this, that, you know, like I don't know about this, and I don't know who can help me with this. And I felt that. I absolutely have felt that. I don't know who can help me heal this pain. Like I'm the only one. Well, actually, like ask questions about that pain. Notice when pain is connected to something like emotions that could come up as well. And a lot of times there are emotions that come in with pain, and we don't really associate them as, or we don't make the connection with them being um, separate things. There's the physical pain and then there's the emotional pain. And if we recognize that we can't just address the physical pain, we also have to look at the emotional pain and ask questions about that. Like, why do I feel like for example, why do I feel like I can't really achieve the things that I want in life right before my cycle comes? Why do I feel like I'm not good enough right before my cycle comes? Where does that feeling come from? Because when your cycle, when menstruation is about to start, your body is ready to release. So you're gonna start feeling things coming up that are ready to be released. So ask questions like that. And I think the menstrual cycle is one way that's really kind of helpful to kind of connect with those emotions and know what's coming through, to help with that healing process and processing those emotional wounds that we don't realize are just kind of sitting there, and we just associate them with being part of us instead of this is something that we can actually heal.
Yeah, or like it is something that's surfacing, that's actually on its way out. it's just moving through, so you have to like feel it and see it, you know.
Absolutely.
I
Absolutely.
feel like oftentimes we get like, when some like really uncomfortable stuff we start feeling, there's like such a natural tendency to like focus on it and wrestle with it and like try and figure out why it's happening and what, and so oftentimes it's just coming up and out, like it's actually already being released. You're just living through the motion of it, you know.
Exactly, exactly. And being able to recognize that is really important, and recognize that as like, oh, this is something that's passing through me. I don't have to hold on to it. Here we go.
Mm, definitely. Yeah, and I was just thinking about like the way that you're talking about the importance of addressing emotional pain and not just physical. I think that's one of the biggest pieces that is really calling holistic healthcare to the forefront of everyone's care, because that is a piece that modern day allopathic medicine doesn't have. They just look at the body as this physical, biological, mechanical thing. And there's so much more to us. That's only one dimension of us. We're multidimensional, you know. We're there's like a mental plane and an emotional plane and a spiritual plane, and you don't actually really achieve that wholeness and that true alignment and embodiment that I personally think every human being really craves, unless you address all
Absolutely.
of them.
Absolutely. It's so important. And that's something that I've learned through the healing process with endometriosis. It's, um, you know, and even now with where I'm at with my cycle, it's like, wow, night and day difference from just a few years ago. But
Mm,
it's because of taking in that ancestral element and the emotional parts of it. And also having some experiences that helped me to see things that I didn't even know were living within me. And I think that's where kind of the alternative or the holistic view and ways of healing can be really helpful, because a lot of times people are carrying things and they don't even they couldn't even put it into words. And that was the case for me, because there are things that I experienced that I didn't realize were wounds. And I think it's important to also recognize that a lot of people with wounds you know, people who identify and people who identify as women are carrying a lot of wounds that are not really addressed through allopathic means. So the
totally.
wound of not being able to have self-expression, and to having to quiet ourselves, and having to fit into a certain role for many, many generations, and having so much oppression for so long, I think is a big part of the wound that many of us are carrying. And I don't think that I don't think that there are enough tools out there in the modern allopathic way that help us to address that wound. And that's a really big wound, that because it's still being perpetuated in so many ways. You go to me, I went to the doctor. I had a doctor tell me that I needed to be on birth control and that herbs were unsafe, and that I didn't know what I was doing for myself. Meanwhile, I had just told him that I almost had kidney failure because of the pill, and I didn't want to go back on that. So he completely disregarded everything that I said and my own knowledge and connection with my body. And I think that's something that we've been faced with for a very, very long time, many generations. So being able to heal that wound is really, really important as well.
Yeah, I think that's one of like the main ones, is really remembering your sovereignty.
Mm-hmm.
Like your own empowerment as an individual to be able to tap into what is right for you, to trust the wisdom of your body and your own inner guidance to lead you to the solutions that are best for you. I think that's one of the most important pieces that I would love to see instilled in as many human beings as possible is just to remember more and more of our sovereignty and how highly intelligent and intuitive we are as a species. It's just culturally that aspect has been like dumbed down and quieted so that we forget that we're actually really freaking intelligent, and we all have an intuitive inner guidance. You just have to listen to it.
Yes, absolutely. And yeah, the intuition isn't really honored. I think, the intuition being connected with the feminine, and the feminine being basically outcast from society.
Mhm.
So bringing that back in, and I see it so much when I'm working with people one-on-one, and then even in workshops, like that, just that restoration is so important, because people are starting to tap back into it, which is so powerful. And we need that, because that's our own inner guidance. And that's part of us being grounded and being able to create the lives that we want for ourselves.
Mhm.
So being able to trust our own guidance and our own bodies.
Definitely. I think that the most powerful way to instill that in others is to embody it yourself. So thank you so much for being such a radiant embodiment of your own sovereignty.
Thank you. Yes, thank you as well.
Um, so I was just thinking about like the massive number of different types of ailments that women are experiencing in their womb spaces, like that whole area. And you just kind of got me to thinking about, I wonder how much of that is ancestral. Like, I wonder how much of what women are experiencing and suffering from in their womb space is that ancestral wounding, which basically, like, when you come down to the root of it, it's just what you just said, is that like outcasting of the feminine, and how that can reflect in, you know, symptoms and ways that you wouldn't suspect. Like, it's really incredible when you really start to get into the connection between the non-physical and the physical.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's, you brought up something that really kind of speaks to me, with having this ancestral wound, that maybe you're not trusting yourself, maybe you're not trusting your own voice, and maybe that's reflected in, okay, well, I'm going to follow someone else's instructions on what I should eat, how I should take care of myself, and how I should live my life. Whereas and that's an ancestral wound, like not being able to trust your own intuition. So by being able to trust your own intuition, maybe you have dreams, for example. I think dreaming is something that people, or like modern society doesn't um, see as like a valid tool for the healing process, when it absolutely is. Our dreams can tell us so much about what we're processing, what we're working through in this lifetime, and what we're working through in the womb space. And so having that connection and being able to um, practice dream work as you would any other practice. Practice dream work as you would practice yoga or something like that, where
Mm-hmm.
you are putting your time and energy into it, and being able to kind of expand upon that skill, and being able to receive messages in that way, and being able to trust those messages, because that's something that has experienced, that's an aspect of our culture and everyone's culture, because everyone's ancestors worked with dreams. And so having that be something that was kind of shunned from society, being kind of taken out, um, that's an ancestral wound. Losing languages, losing indigenous languages, that's an ancestral wound that we may not realize that we're dealing with. And so that could stop us from using our voice in certain ways. And when we are not speaking up for ourselves, that is very much connected to the thyroid. And I can see it time and time again, how people who have thyroid issues are not using their voice. So
Mm.
there's this big connection between these ancestral wounds and things that we are emotional wounds that we're carrying and how they're showing up in the physical body. And being able to restore some traditional practices is how we can actually come into the awareness of those wounds and heal them.
Mm. Beautiful. I was just thinking about like another one of the main pieces that I feel like has been really damaging for humanity as a whole is the loss of storytelling. Because back in the day, that's how lineages carried on. That's how wisdom and knowledge was passed down. And like we're talking about ancestry right now, and I'm just thinking about how I don't even know, like beyond my current grandmother, I don't know anything past that. And I think that's very common for humanity to not even be familiar with their ancestral lineage, just not very many generations back.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's so funny that you mentioned that because storytelling has been coming up for me just in the past couple of weeks. I've been like, storytelling. I really want to like connect with that piece again because it's so
Mm.
important. I think, you know, those stories, they provide so much. They tell us about our ancestry, about our history. They tell us about how people connected with nature, how our ancestors connected with elements, how they connected with unseen, and how they connected with healing and how they process pain. So storytelling is so, so important. And I think that's something that hopefully is starting to be restored. I know if I'm receiving the message, a lot of other people are receiving it as well.
Definitely. Yes, I'm really looking forward to that coming back. And I've been talking about this actually quite a bit lately with my partner about how much better we learn from like symbolism
Mm-hmm.
and like, analogy and the story of things. Like there's just something about that like the message behind it all goes like beyond your normal logical analytical thinking, and it like speaks to your soul. When we learn through storytelling, it's like a totally different way to receive wisdom and knowledge. I personally feel like that's truly how humans are supposed to be learning and receiving, and not this like sit behind a desk and memorize words and look at a chalkboard all day. You know what I mean?
I do, and I completely agree with you. Symbolism is really important, and also I think there's this critical thinking element almost to storytelling when you're able to interpret it in your own way and process it through your body and process
Mm.
those symbols and be able to receive lots of different kinds of messages from it. And also having that community element where you're storytelling and you're sharing that story with other people and you're hearing other people's interpretations of that story and how they process that information and the symbols that they gather from it. And that's how we progress and that's how we grow through like that community and storytelling. It's very powerful.
Definitely.
Mhm.
I have been feeling that message too. It's really awesome to see that you are receiving that as well. Okay, well, you're way too easy to talk to. we've, we've already been going for an hour, I think. So probably should start wrapping it up soon, but I just wanted to ask you if you could share a little bit about your services for anyone that really is resonating with your energy and wants to get in touch with you and perhaps work with you. If you could just share a little bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I would consider myself more of a medicine woman because I work with a lot of different modalities like herbalism, ancestor work, but my focus is on the womb space mainly. And I help people to restore balance in the womb space. So whether you're menstruating or you're not menstruating, it's really about having that connection with the womb space. So I work with a lot of people who are dealing with like endometriosis, unbalanced cycles in some way, painful cycles, PCOS, fibroids, anything that could be coming up in the womb space. And a lot of times I work with people who have either had a hysterectomy or just feeling disconnected from the womb space. And so in one-on-one sessions, we look at the physical body, and then we also look at the emotions and call in ancestors and see how maybe there are things in the ancestral lineage that can be looked at, or guides that can be connected to help you through the womb healing process. Yeah, and I absolutely love these sessions. I do a lot of one-on-one in-person sessions, but I also right now do a lot of Zoom sessions and things like that. And then of course there's combo, and I absolutely love combo. I do combo ceremonies. Usually if it's your first time working with me, we'll do an initiation, which is 3 ceremonies over the course of 3 days. And it's a really deep dive into the healing process. So that is one of my offerings as well. And I also offer ancestor work sessions for someone who is not necessarily focused on womb health. Maybe they're just looking at overall health or just overall connection with looking to gain an overall connection with ancestral guides. And I also do tarot readings, and I connect with ancestors through tarot. So I use that as a divination tool. But a lot of times it's just one card these days, and the whole session is all the information comes through because the ancestors come in and they kind of tell me everything they need to tell me just through one card these days. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Really wonderful to see that your channel has gotten really clear and strong.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Probably very powerful for anybody that is wanting more of a connection with their ancestral lineage to seek out a channel like yourself that does that work regularly. And it's like you've already got that momentum going, and you already have the connection with the ancestral lineages. It's really beautiful. Thank you so much for doing the work on yourself so that you could be a channel and a guide for other people.
Yeah, absolutely. It's I'm so happy to do this work, and I'm so happy to be able to share it with other people.
Yeah, it's definitely fulfilling, isn't it?
It is. It is so fulfilling. I get so much just energy and joy from working with people. So, yeah.
Definitely. It does something for your entire life that I don't think anything else can. It's like really when you're on your purpose.
Yes.
I think just that alone is so healing for like a number of wounds. Just doing your purpose.
Absolutely, because that's what we come here for, and being able to be someone who can help people do that for themselves, it's just, wow, I'm so grateful.
Yeah, me too. Okay, and one other thing. I know that you're offering a gift to the audience. It's a meditation to help start connecting with your ancestral lineage, right?
Yes, so it's a guided journey to help you connect with your ancestral guide. And it's the first step. It's the first step in kind of developing that connection. And I want you to know that when you do this guided journey, you'll get messages in a lot of different ways. Some people get messages through just seeing things in their mind, seeing things almost like playing like a movie behind their eyes. Or you could get messages through feelings in your body. I've gotten messages from ancestors through different aromas. So I remember when I first really started connecting with my grandmother, Serafina, I would smell cinnamon in the kitchen. I'm like, what's that smell? Oh, it's grandma, because she would always cook with cinnamon. So there are a lot of different ways that you can start to pick up on those connections. And don't think that if you're not seeing it in your mind, you're not making that connection. This guided journey is to help open up that door and invite your ancestors in, your helpful ancestors. And then you just pay attention to the ways that they could be showing up for you. So I just want to share that with you.
Thank you for sharing that piece. That's something that I often think about when it comes to like connecting with any non-physical energies, is to just completely let go of the way you think the messages should come in or the timing. Like you could ask a question right now, but it's not necessarily like you're going to hear the answer in words immediately. It might come through
Exactly.
well, or in your dreams. Or one of the ways that my guides talk to me a lot is putting songs in my head where there's just like one line of lyrics. You
Yes,
ever
that's
do
a
that?
big one. Yes. And that's a message that I've gotten for a few of my clients that I've worked with actually in doing ancestor work sessions. And I'm like, pay attention to the music. And they're like, oh, yeah, the song has been playing. Like, listen to those lyrics, pay
Yeah.
attention, because that's a way that they're connecting with you. And there's so many ways. Yeah.
And when you really start to like actually be aware of that, it grows. And then you realize that there's more and more connection all the time that you're just not focusing on. And
Exactly.
it can be so fun.
Yes, absolutely. As you like, and that's part of your developing your intuition and reconnecting with those gifts that are already within you. And a lot of times, ancestors will push you in the direction of the gift that is most aligned with your lineage. So some people, yeah, they do have clear visions in their mind, but maybe your ancestor had a really deep connection with sound, or plants, or aromas, or colors, or even like artwork and things like that. So just, yeah, be open to all the different ways that your ancestors may want to connect with
Mm. Beautiful. I think that's a lovely note to end on. What about you?
you. Yes, I agree.
Okay, wonderful. Wow. Oh, I have enjoyed this conversation with you so much. Thank you so much for your time with me today. I just want you to know personally that I feel really strongly called to come in and work with Combo with you. So I'm putting an intention out there to align with that reality.
Yes, that would be wonderful. I would love that. I would love to share that medicine with you.
Totally. I think that's going to end up happening. Sharing your wisdom and some of your story, and um, just all of the beautiful, empowering messages that you have shared with us today. Thank you so much, everybody else, for tuning into this message. I will be including the link for that meditation for everybody to access, and also a way to connect with Raven if you feel inspired to. So thank you so much for being here, Raven.
Yes, thank you so much for having me, Angel.
Okay, I will see you guys for another episode, and I bid you all a beautiful and empowering day. Aloha.